Hi all. I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to discuss about semiconductors. Okay. So the semiconductors is a material whose conductivity or resistivity lies between conductor and insulator. Semiconductor have some properties. Semiconductor having resistivity is less than insulator and more than conductor. Fermi level is formed in semiconductor materials. So, semiconductor have negative temperature coefficient. The resistance in semiconductors is increased with the decrease in temperature, that is vice versa. The conducting property of semiconductor changes when the suitable metallic impurity is added to it, which is very important property. So, the semiconductor have the property of doping. It means we can control the flow of current in semiconductors. And in electronics, they mostly use semiconductor devices because we can control the flow of electricity by adding impurity. This is not happening in case of metals. Sometimes if we use metals, uh, it may be short circuit will form. So semiconductor materials are good in that case. Yeah. So semiconductor is having two types. Intrinsic semiconductor, that is pure form of semiconductor, and extrinsic is the impure form of semiconductor. When we add impurity to intrinsic semiconductor, then extrinsic semiconductor is formed. Extrinsic semiconductor has two types, p type and n type. When trivalent impurity is added to pure semiconductor, then p-type semiconductor is formed. When pentavalent impurity is added to pure semiconductor, then n-type extrinsic semiconductor is formed. Here is the difference between semiconductors. In intrinsic semiconductor, it is a pure semiconductor. Electron density is equal to the density of holes. Electrical conductivity is low, and depending on the temperature, intrinsic semiconductor is totally depend on temperature. In intrinsic semiconductor, there is no impurity. But in case of extrinsic semiconductor, it is an impure form of semiconductor. Electron density is not equal to the density of holes, and electrical conductivity of the extrinsic semiconductor is high. It is also depend on temperature, but it is also depend on impurity. Means extrinsic semiconductor is depend on temperature and impurity as well. The extrinsic semiconductor consists of trivalent impurity and pentavalent impurity in it. Okay, so the difference between p-type and n-type semiconductor. A p-type semiconductor is an intrinsic semiconductor doped with a boron or indium. The majority of carrier in p-type semiconductor are holes. Electron are minority carrier in p-type semiconductors. In p-type semiconductors, the holes density is much greater than the electron density. The acceptor energy level of p-type is close to the valence band and away from the conduction band. In n-type semiconductor, an intrinsic semiconductor doped with the phosphorus or antimony as impurity. Now, in case of n-type semiconductor, the majority of charge carrier is n-type semiconductor are electrons. Holes are the minority carrier in n-type semiconductor. In the n-type semiconductor, the electron density is much greater than the hole density. The the donor energy level of n-type is close to the conduction band and away from the valence band. This is the difference between p-type and n-type semiconductor.